Okay.
All right. All right. Good morning. We have Public Works Director Kurt Niehaus. You want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Glad to. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good morning. On my left is Commissioner Kevin Cook, representing District 3, and I'm Bill Rippon, representing District 1. I wanted to bring you up to speed a little bit as to where we are with getting a new commissioner. Last Friday, the precinct chairs from the 1st District elected Aaron Mays. They had two good candidates, Neil Dobler and Aaron. Aaron got the majority of the votes. That vote will now go to Governor Laura Kelly, where she will make she will approve the election and make the final assignment to this position, and that could happen probably as early as next week. I know all three of us are going to be in Mobile, Alabama, so there will not be a meeting this coming Thursday. So I assume Monday we'll probably have everything back in order. All right. What's first on the agenda?
First item is item 1, organizational. A, consider appointment of chair and vice chair for the commission.
Commissioner Rippon, you are currently the vice chair. I would make a motion to move you from vice chair to chair of the Shawnee County Commission. There's a statute. I've met with the counselor regarding the statute and what its provisions. By statute, it says that we should meet when there's a resignation to make that designation.
I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimously passes. All right. Now, am I supposed to move over here? Is that?
Yes.
All right.
Is there a motion to nominate a vice chair?
Oh, is there a motion to nominate a vice chair? And I would make that motion for Commissioner Cook.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? It passes.
All right, I'm going to move back to my chair, get farther away from Miss Beck.
Honest. I shower regularly. I mean, really. I don't.
6 years in one chair.
Yes,
Go
yes.
back. It's like going home.
Purely ceremonial. Okay. Next agenda item.
Item 3, consent agenda.
Commissioner, there's 2 items I would move for their approval.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, motion carries 2-0. Next agenda item.
Item 4, new business. A, county clerk number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Let me find it. Here. Under building and maintenance, Cook Flat Strobel Engineering, $11,735 is for design service for Deer Creek Trail Extension. Under equipment fund and general expense, Samco Inc., totaling $80,132.50 is for a dedicated outdoor air system for the DOC Annex. September 27th, total vouchers, $1,021,507.12. And I move that we approve the vouchers.
Second.
All in favor? Say aye. All opposed? Motion passes 2-0. Next item.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
Commissioner, I'll move for approval of the correction orders.
I'll second. All in favor? Say aye. All opposed? Motion carries 2-0. Next item.
Item B, planning, number 1, consider approval of resolution number 2019-73, authorizing a conditional use permit to allow a residential treatment center for women on property zoned residential reserve district at 1546 Northwest 46th Street in Soldier Township.
Good morning, Commissioners. Randy Anderson, Planning Director. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to allow a group residence for adult rehabilitation center on property zone RR1 at 1545 Northwest 46th Street. The property is located at the bottom of the screen where it says 1545 on the south side of 46th. All the properties to the north are residential. Let me show you a better picture. Find this thing going. Okay, here's the home where the use is being conducted right now for about six or seven women. It's a pretty deep lot, about 800 feet south of the right of way. The nearest home is located to the west, near the property line of this property. This is what the residence right now looks like. The area that's in question, you see most of the land to the west, to the east, and to the south is large acreage tracts. The properties to the north have been subdivided for 1.5 to 3.5 acre size properties. The applicants, the people who are protesting this request are shown in the cross-hatched areas. That is pretty much everybody on the north side and 2 properties to the far west of this area within the notification area. So that area, just to give you a perspective, is 38% of the area that was notified. So this does meet the 20% criteria. So it will require a unanimous vote of the commission to approve the request. The request, when it went in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission, had a very spirited and productive debate about the property. There were many people who spoke in favor of the CUP, and there were others who spoke they were concerned about if the CUP could be transferable, or if it could morph into another form of a residential treatment center that was not for the Teen Challenge Women's Ministries. As a result of that, the staff had the top 9 conditions, and the Planning Commission added number 10 that said if the CUP is granted, it should be limited to the Teen Women's Challenge Women's Ministries. It shall not run with the property and not be transferable. So that was the 10th condition, and on that basis, a motion was made, and the commission voted 4-2 to approve. The 2 commissioners who voted against it were concerned about property values and potential impact of the use on the neighborhood. That is pretty much what I wanted to say. One thing I wanted to leave you with is that this is not a protected use under state statute. So the commission is free to approve, deny, add conditions, subtract conditions from the overhead that are shown there. You have full authority to take whatever action that you feel is appropriate for the county and for this neighborhood and for this applicant. So it's pretty straightforward. That's my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions now or later in the presentation if you have any.
How many people are housed at this facility currently?
Presently, I think there's some number variation. I think 6 or 7 is what I've heard thrown around the most. They want to have 16. They're limited to 16 by the state fire marshal before you start having to do improvements to the house to put in additional improvements for fire, sprinklers, kitchen improvements, to make the property safe for that number of individuals. So it's been capped basically by the size of the house and by the fire marshal recommendations that be the ceiling. But right now there's 6. They would like to go 10 more to 16.
And is it just strictly for women, or can men be there, or?
It's, as represented, it's strictly for women and the special needs that they have of being abused or have substance abuse. They get treatment by I think they said five staff would be the maximum number of staff who could be there. So it is basically women, and they get personal one-on-one treatment for those afflictions.
Is there any restrictions on how long they can stay there?
As written right now, we don't have any on, we haven't proposed any, they haven't offered anything other than, you know, it's a full run CUP that could go on for as long as they want to inhabit the home. You're certainly within your power to put a restriction on there. One thing that I was thinking about at the meeting last time is, if you wanted to give them a trial 1 year or 2 year CUP where you get to see how it operates and see what the impact on the neighborhood would be, you can do something like that as well. Certainly within your prerogative.
Are they free to come and go as they please there?
I think you need to ask the applicant that question, because I don't know enough about the specific day-to-day operation.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
during the meeting of the Planning Commission, was there a discussion about the facility already being in operation without having sought approval?
That's correct.
And do you have a testimony, or was there testimony given as to how long they had been in operation without any permit?
We've assumed at least 7 months based on we had some inquiries about from somebody in the area seeing women transported in or transported out from the facility. We've heard that. We found a website under teen Challenge Women's Ministries that were advertising the use since probably about February or March. So about 7 months, 6 to 7 months is what we believe is how long they've been operating.
Did the applicant come to the Planning Commission or the Planning Department as part of a complaint filed by the neighborhood, or did they come voluntarily in order to come into compliance?
As far as I know, they came in voluntarily.
My understanding is the Planning Commission, the Planning Department is generally a complaint-driven by and large.
Correct.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the items number 9?
There were some improvements that were completed on the property, not by this applicant, but by the owners of the property. That there were no permits obtained for a pool, a pole barn, and maybe some other things, some outbuildings on the property. We would like them to come in and pull permits for all those improvements so that they are legally established by a permit. I think most of those improvements were put in about the same time the house was built on the property, like 2002, 2003, somewhere in that time frame, well before this applicant came in seeking this use.
Is that something unique you have found in your short time as the planning director, that there's property that may have been improved that no one ever got the permits for?
That's very typical. People think that it's a wide open county, you can do whatever you want because it's in the county. But yeah, that is, I mean, right now we're going through a series of requests, I mean, of people who have gone through, I think we have 320 people who have built improvements that were not permitted. I'm sure there's more than that.
Okay. So while not really germane to this application, people should know that if you've built something without a permit, it might behoove you to come down and talk to the planning department.
Anything over 150 square feet definitely requires a permit.
Okay. I don't have any other questions of the director.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I would make a motion to open the public hearing.
I second that. All in favor? Okay. We're now open for public meeting, or public comment. As the owner of the facility. No.
I'm Floyd McMillan. I've been a developer, builder, and business owner from Lawrence, Manhattan, Topeka, Junction City for 29 years here in the city of Topeka. I've sat on many committees in Topeka to help for development for future for the city of Topeka, and now they're doing another big thing trying to figure out what the next big step is here, and I was in our meeting two weeks ago trying to help them get the city of Topeka going into a right direction so we can get more development going on. When me and my wife put this house up for sale, we had it for sale, and Team Challenge sent an offer over, wanted to buy our property, and I said, they made an offer, and it took about 2 weeks for me to answer their offer. Because I was a little nervous at first too, because I have a neighbor that we share the drive, and that's the Cooksleys, Julie and Dan. And then the 7 acres that's to the east of the property we'll still own, and my son is gonna build the house there in 2 or 3 years. Well, we found out last week we're gonna be grandparents, so maybe 3 or 4 years now, but we'll see how that goes. So I did my investigating for 2 weeks, figuring out who they were, what they were, and everything, and researched it first before I gave an answer. Then I sat down with my wife, who's been a real estate agent in Topeka for 29 years. We sat down and tried to figure out what it would do to the area after we researched it, and we're 800 feet off the 46th Street. We're on 11 acres surrounded by cedar trees. So we decided, and we put a proposal to Team Challenge that we would lease the property for a year. It was my fault that the permit didn't get for the CUP, because I wanted them to have a trial error before I agreed to it. So after about 6 months of Team Challenge being there, and they're running just a skeleton amount and trying to get it, you know, what they needed done, top notch. I mean, it is just, they're phenomenal. The girls are always yes, sir, no, sir. I was over there about every 2 weeks, helping them do stuff. I volunteered a lot of time to help them put in some stuff. So at that point, after I felt it was good, since my son was building there with his family, that's when I came into Anna and said, we need to make an application and try to get this moving forward. This is not a secondary rehab. This is for young teen girls that have trauma, and we're talking trauma from their own family members abusing them to you name it. It's just kids that been born in the wrong situation, and it's amazing what they're doing. To me, the reason it was such a blessing is because we had a daughter that we fought for 4 years. And every time we called somebody, it was a check, $50,000 just to get them in the door. $50,000 for a 4 or 5 month treatment. Money, money, money. When I got to know them, they do 13-month treatments for free, no cost. So it took the level playing field for people that can't afford it, and bringing their kids in and give them a chance to get a step in life and point them a new direction. This ain't a rehab place. This isn't a place that these are gonna go out and hurt anybody. These girls are awesome, and they need a direction. And anybody that wants to say that it's beyond that and it's gonna hurt their family, they need to come. Not one of them has come to the place and checked it out except my neighbors surrounding me. Came and checked it out. They're here to testify for it, and they'll be speaking because they came and did the research, they saw it, they know what it is. And I've been in this community now for 30 years doing stuff. I may have chose the wrong choice for not coming in right away, but I felt that was what I felt like I wanted to do before I did the okay, because I did my diligence and checked them out before I was gonna move forward with it. And they're a top-notch facility. And it's all 100% donations from churches and individuals and people. And as a parent that's dealt with this with my daughter, there's only one worse thing in the world besides not with dealing with this is if you're a parent that don't have the finances to be able to help your child. And they're all over the country and they're helping people. And I just can't believe that we have this uproar to try to help all these teenage girls and help these people through a Christian minister and make it work. And I've been so fraught about this that I've been waking up at 3 in the morning and just can't sleep for 2 weeks because of all this. I called one of my best friends, who a lot of you probably know, Craig Beam, who's second in U.S. Marshals, and we talked about it. And you know what his phrase was? He said, these girls are being victimized for a second time. That's what he said. The people here are telling them they're not worth being helped. They're not worth having a second chance. They're being victimized now for a second time. And it's just, I'm just so, but anyways, enough of this. It was my choice to do the thing, and that's why I operated it and let them in early for the CUP. And so that is on me and not on them, and that was my option back to them. So to take that out of the picture, that was me. Second thing, to answer number 9. Number 9, in 2002, when Dana was in the building committee, or they're doing building permits, I turned in my house and everything at the same time and stuff, but I didn't get a separate building thing, but it's all was turned in. The swimming pool, I did not get a permit for, but the pool's no longer there. It's filled in, leveled out, it's just ground. So there's no swimming pool on the property anymore, okay? So, you guys, any questions for me?
When you say they are running it, who is the
Team Challenge. Carl and his wife are the people that actually live there, and they're the ones that actually stay on the premises and they're running it. But Team Challenge Ministry has like 6 or 7 houses for these teams all over the country, from Tennessee, I think, Arkansas, and stuff. This Team Challenge is like, I don't know how many, but they're all over the world.
Okay, I asked a question earlier about are the girls there free to come and go as they please? Or
No.
They're not?
No, they're monitored. They go to places only with them, and they'll tell you more about it, but they're very, I promise you this, when I go there, you would never know there was something wrong with them. They are so well kept. The house is immaculate. The property's cleaner than I ever keep it. And the women are so respectful. If you walk in there today, I don't care who you are, they'll say, yes, ma'am, no, sir. It is phenomenal. I sat there yesterday and visited one of the ladies. She went through the 13-month program with them. She's been clean for 2 years. She actually works now in the education department for them, under the teacher as an assistant, and because they do education there and get them all their, if they need, get their high school diploma or their, whatever the other thing is they can get out after they get out of high school. And she now lives down on Southwest Gage, has a house in Topeka, and she's getting both of her kids back here this week. The judge is signing off on it, and she's going to get her 7- and 9-year-old children back and stuff. And she is so, she is a breath just to listen to her story and see what she went through. And her mom, when she was born into drugs. Her mom was addicted, and that's all she knew her whole life. And now she's an incredible woman, and her story is phenomenal. So I'm telling you, it's a phenomenal thing. That's all I can tell you. And if they do 16 people every 13 months, they have an 85% approval rate. In 10 years, that's 150 people at no cost to them that they just made productive citizens in our society.
Are friends and relatives allowed to come and visit?
You'll have to ask them the details. I don't know all the details. I just know how the girls are, what they, and stuff. And I helped them, you know, with a little classroom work and stuff, so I can't answer all the details stuff.
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Just a question for you, or statement. The reason I had asked about the permitting process wasn't to cast stones to you as much as it was we had received emails from inquiries and I know that that had been an issue at the Planning Commission, and that's why I wanted to allow you the opportunity to set it straight.
Yeah.
And
No,
so-
I'm not casting stones. I just wanted to make sure there's so much stuff being thrown around. I just wanted you guys to make sure, understood that I was the one that put the proposal down. I'm the one, that's why I did it, because I was a little nervous at the beginning too. And that's why I gave him a grace period so I could do it. If I'd have seen anything I didn't like and I didn't feel comfortable for my son living next to him, then I could have said, sorry, after 1 year, you need to move because I don't feel comfortable with what you guys are doing. But it's the other hand, I'm just heart sold into it. Me and my wife, I mean, we go down, we gave the girls gift certificates for Christmas, we give them clothes, we try to help with them, and it's our heart. We believe it.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Jarbo, you wish to speak?
Tears to my eyes just listening to him talk about it. He's couldn't be more sincere when he first called me to tell me about this program, and I knew a little bit about the family situation they'd endured and how hard it is. This is really a breath of fresh air, a program that's very unique. I'm not going to spend much time talking to you. I'm here more or less as a choir director. I'd like to start with people from the organization who can properly answer your questions in detail about how it's run, because I think that's quite important. And we have both the local operator and people from headquarters, if you will. I do want to correct one thing. This number 10 got added at the last minute, kind of, and the correct name of the organization would be kind of important, I think, for number 10. So the correct name is Teen Challenge by the Greater South, because they operate in a number of states. And we can provide that in writing, in written form, if that's important. Part of that confusion is Mr. McMillan's the applicant, not the operator. So unless you have some legal question right at the moment, I'll let the people who actually know how this thing operates talk to you about that. At the tail end, once everybody else is finished, the opponents and proponents, and we have a number of supporters here, then I may want to come back and summarize a couple of things. But other than that, unless you have an immediate question, I'll let, who's going to go first? Ray? Kate? Kate? Okay.
I don't have any questions.
Did you have anything for me? I'm sorry.
So the conditional use permit, that's on the owner or the people running the facility?
Well, he's the applicant.
So
They have a contract to buy the property if this is
I see,
approved.
I see, okay, all right.
Good morning. Would you like me to speak, or would you like to ask questions? Okay.
If you
My-
state your name and.
Sure. My name is Kate Riggs. I have been with Teen Challenge for about 10 years. I am the Chief Financial Officer out of our corporate office in Arkansas, and I travel to all the properties to make sure everything's in compliance and doing what it needs to be doing. Since joining this organization, I have been privileged to watch what changes in these ladies' lives. I didn't know. When I joined this organization, it was a job, J-O-B, that was it. Since then, I have watched young ladies, I've watched parents get their daughters back. I have watched these young moms get their kids back. I have watched people that had no hope of ever being normal have that change where, hey, I can function. I don't have to live in this just deep depression or anxiety. They get to experience life the way that you and I do. And so it's a huge deal. It's a big deal that they get to experience this and have a second chance at life. In 2016, there were 300 drug poisoning deaths in Kansas. Currently, Kansas is lower than the national average, but you want to stay that way. On August 17, 2018, Teresa Freed actually issued this letter stating that, yes, Kansas is lower than the national average, but they want to stay lower, and they developed a strategic plan. We are instrumental in helping to address these issues. Some of the issues include prevention, treatment and recovery. Some of the issues address preventing the escalation, reducing the prevalence, and increasing the ability of people to get help once that they've had an issue. Along with the services that we provide, we're also a large employer. We we put about $37,000 per month back into the community through utilities, food, shelter, clothing, medical care, things of that nature for these ladies. It's expensive to run a home that is going to be able to provide 24/7 care for people that have no resources whatsoever. And so we are able to participate in that manner as well. We also do community service projects. We have prevention projects that we're able to deliver to schools, to civic groups, to church groups, free of charge. We don't charge anything for that. The way we are funded, we have no federal funding whatsoever, no government funding. We are funded solely through contributions of individuals and organizations, businesses in the area that see what we're doing and they want to partner with us and give back. And so that's what we are doing. Much like a traditional church, Teen Challenge is a program that fulfills the Great Commission by telling the lost and forgotten about Jesus and about what he is doing in their lives and what he can do in their lives. The property that we're at is great. It's a serene area. It has a lot of tree coverage. They can have that privacy, but at the same time, it's close to medical care in case somebody's blood sugar drops too low or somebody has a cold or the flu. You know, we're not having another barrier to entry of getting them medical treatment. So where we are is perfect for the kind of facility that we offer. Yesterday we hosted an open house. And we gave invitations to everybody that was on that map, or at least we attempted to deliver those by hand so that it wasn't just another piece of junk mail in the mail. We literally were knocking on doors, giving those out earlier that week. And of the people that showed up, none of them were on the petition or that had signed that petition. Nobody came to see what we did. There were people that came out. We even had a news station that came out and reported on what they saw, that they saw these ladies getting the help that we had talked about, getting the education, being able to provide services. So we hosted an open house, and we were able to show that. And as long as it's scheduled, we can continue to do that. We have a very structured, regimented program, obviously for the safety of our clients. They have an expectation of privacy while they're there. And unfortunately, somebody showing up unannounced kind of violates that. And we have to make sure that we're protecting these people that have been abused. And some of them need to be away from those people that have done that. And they don't need to know where they are. So Topeka has 130,000 residents. Shawnee County has 180,000 residents. Statistically, that's 12,000 people that are currently dealing with abuse of some sort in the last month. We can't help 12,000 people, but we can help 1. We can help 6. We can help 16. And if we can provide that help to 16 people, like Floyd said, multiplicatively, that's 150 people that we're putting back into society that have a strong foundational base. These people are getting their GEDs. They're learning life skills and job skills. And we're not talking about just somebody coming in and getting treatment and a facility getting a check. We're talking about life change that happens through our program. Is there any questions that I can answer for you guys?
I don't have any, thank you.
How are the girls? Are they recommended to your facility, or do they come on their own, or families bring them there? How do?
All of the above. So we have a way where if you are interested in the program that you reach out to us. Most of the time we get families that reach out to us and say, hey, I heard about your program. What can you offer? The applicant has to make the first approach, though. They have to call us and say, hey, I want help. Even though we've talked to the families, even though we've done everything, that applicant has to say, hey, I'm sick and I need help, because otherwise we're trying to convince somebody to get something that they don't want, and that's not going to be successful. So they have to call us, say they want help, then they go through a process of making sure that they're a good fit for this program, and then we can bring them into the program.
What is your success rate?
There is, the University of Tennessee did a study, a collegiate study, that showed an 86% success rate, which is among the top in the nation. And that was several years old. We're actually beta testing a new tracking mechanism that will help to verify and solidify that data.
Other questions? Anyone else would like to speak in favor of this?
You had some other operational questions. Would you like me to answer those?
Yeah.
You had asked about families visiting?
Yes, can
Okay.
families visit, and that's,
Yes, absolutely. Families can visit. However, they have to be approved family members. So if you were providing your child with drugs or your wife with drugs or whomever, you're not allowed on property. it's a very, they have to go through a pretty regimented vetting process to be able to visit.
Are friends allowed to,
No, sir. It is
Okay.
strictly immediate family only.
are they free to come and go?
We are not a lockdown facility, but we do not, everybody is supervised at all times. So there's not bars on the windows. However, you don't leave the property without somebody escorting you. And quite honestly, I mean, this is rural Kansas. That'd be kind of a nerve-wracking, I'm afraid of the dark, so that's a kind of a nerve-wracking experience leaving, going through the
They don't have
woods.
their own vehicles and,
No, sir. And the keys are locked up. It's very secure. It's very, Teen Challenge has been around for 60 years, a little over 60 years. We have had facilities operating for about 11, almost 12 years. We don't have it all figured out, but we've done quite a bit to make sure that it runs smoothly and is successful.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Do we have anyone else that'd like to speak in favor of this?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Ray Clark. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Teen Challenge Women's Ministries. I've been working with the organization for about 7 years. Prior to that, I worked for Teen Challenge of Arizona for 3 years, so I have extensive background with Teen Challenge. My footprint here is to oversee and make sure that conditions and things like that are going to be specified by the commissioners are adhered to. Anything that has to do with permitting or working with the local agencies, the fire marshals, whatnot, that's where I would be. I can tell you that there has been questions about the footprint and what the footprint to the community is, and Teen Challenge's footprint to the local community in the home is small, as in the fact that nobody really knew that we were here, but we operated throughout the state, with our fundraising, with our church outreaches, and with the things that we've done in the community, and that's where our footprint is strong. That's where we are out there and we are giving back, and the ladies that are in the program they're learning this process of healing. They're also learning how to operate in the world today and how to function as Christian ladies in the communities, and that's about all I have to say. I'm here to answer questions. I do have a letter that was written and sent to me by the pastor who owns the property that is just to the east of the property that we're operating on, and he gave his testimony at the last meeting, and he's in Tennessee right now. So if you would allow me to read his letter in favor, I would like to do that.
Sure.
Okay. This letter is from Pastor Richard Sundermeyer. He is the pastor of the Nazarene Church, just to the east of us, and it says, Shawnee County, I would like to offer my support for Teen Challenge Women's Ministries on Northwest 46th Street. I'm writing in several different capacities as adjoining property owner, pastor, and president of Family Life Church of the Nazarene, adjoining the property to the east. A nearby property owner, I own a vacant lot, 3.4 acres, between Family Life Church and Northwest Rochester. As a resident in the community, I reside at 4501 Northwest Westgate Road, 3 miles to the east. My wife and I have known Teen Challenge since the 1970s, and I have only seen great value and integrity from them. They operate strictly on donations and do not aggressively fundraise to the communities. They simply have volunteer giving. The women's ministry facility is a huge need in our area and the community. We value what they are doing greatly. We did not know that they were already operating at the Northwest 46th Street location until we were told about it. There was absolutely no excessive noise or disturbance from them during that time. As property owners, we do not feel that they will create a negative presence to the community. We also do not feel that their presence will adversely affect our property values or the property value to the vacant lot. As pastor of Family Life Church, we have no connection with Teen Challenge, but we highly value their mission and efforts nationally and globally. They make a very positive impact on the communities that they are part of. My wife, ask that Shawnee County governing bodies grant their request for conditional use permit on this site. Sincerely, Richard Sundermeyer and Barbara Sundermeyer. Thank you.
Thank you. Your other facilities in the country, what kind of setting are they in?
They are all in rural settings like the one here in Kansas. They are all homes, with the exception, we do have a facility in Tennessee that we were granted by Teen Challenge USA to manage, that we did not we did not start that one. We took it over for Teen Challenge. Our properties are in rural Arkansas, rural Missouri, rural Mississippi, and now rural here. We operate homes that are about the same size, but on some smaller lots. We have had zero problems with the local authorities. We've never had a woman leave our program and go commit a crime directly in the community.
Question. Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Thank you.
Anyone else speak in favor?
As you can tell, I'm not a local here. Hey, my name's Dan Cooksley. I live at 1609 Northwest 46, which is the neighbor to the 1545 address. I'm like everybody else in the beginning. I was pretty nervous knowing there's going to be a lot of people coming and going and things happening in that neighborhood. But Carl invited me over just recently after they opened up, brought me to the home, showed me what they were doing, what was going on there. Very clean place, very nice place. All the people were real nice. They're pretty much to themselves. I mean, you don't see them out and about running wild or, nothing like that. If you got any questions about them.
Have you seen a lot of, an increase in traffic because of this facility?
You see the vans coming and going with the girls. I mean, yeah, like I said, I was pretty nervous in the beginning, but like I say, for the most part, they're to themselves. Their yard's very clean. They keep it up. I'm impressed.
Have you had any incidents with the girls coming onto your property?
Not the girls from next door, no. I had a girl that was getting dropped off once, came and knocked on my door. I could see her in my camera here probably a few months back. She was being dropped off by somebody. And I mean, the girls that come and go in that place usually are in one of those Teen Challenge vans.
She was being dropped off. Was she at the wrong address? Or?
Yes, she was at the wrong address.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Is that it? Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Chris Nowak, real estate broker and agent, Topeka. I also am a board director for Kansas Children's Service League. In my opinion, and I'm going to address the valuation of the properties, I've done some research. I've done some CMAs regarding the property, the location. I've recently sold homes in the Linwood subdivision, which is one of the subdivisions in question. Property values have not been affected. This is not unlike the 17 Oxford houses we have in Topeka in residential neighborhoods. I would venture to say that the majority of the neighbors don't even know that this is what's going on. They are private entities. There is no signage. The traffic flow is not going to be any greater than that of a residential person coming and going, doctor's appointments, school, behavior issues, therapy, those types of things. This particular property that we're talking about is not only rural, but it's also completely secluded by trees. So anything that is occurring or that is within the property confines isn't even seen or visualized to the outside public. We're talking about an opportunity here to help young women and teens that have been in domestic violence situations, they've been in drug situations. This is an opportunity for Teen Challenge to give back to those individuals. Like I said, it's not unlike the Oxford houses and the women Oxford houses we have in Topeka. 90% of those operate unknown to the general neighborhood. Typically in these situations, they are highly well run. The level of services that are provided to the teens in there, they aren't there just living and gaining free room and board. They have a schedule of chores. They have a schedule of education events. They have a schedule of events that they have to attend, and they have to be willing participants within these programs in order to stay in these facilities. It's been my experience that when you get into these kinds of environments, that these homes typically are in better condition than a lot of the neighborhood homes because they do have to earn their keep. This isn't something where they're just there lazily hanging around and just trying to recover. They're earning their place back into society, and it starts at the home level and the education that they're being brought about by Teen Challenge. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
Good morning. Reverend Tom Watson, pastor of El Shaddai Ministries in East Topeka. I came, just kind of observed today. I know Floyd, and one of the things I observed with Floyd over these months, he kind of shared some of the things that were going on, and I noticed how apprehensive he was when we first started talking about this property, and he had asked me if I knew of Teen Challenge, and I knew a little bit about Teen Challenge, but the main thing that I wanted to speak to was our community at some point is really needs to take an interest in our children, and I think we're doing that. And I think that it becomes very personal when people have observed or experienced the things that Floyd and his family has gone through. But I watched him as he became more and more comfortable as he observed and kind of looked in on what was going on with him. And I saw the excitement, and then it went from apprehension to his own participation, his own volunteering. And all I could see was a good change. And I think that we need to be known for second chances in this city. So I would appreciate the fact that we would take into consideration, of course, personally, doesn't do anything for me as far as the property, my property values or this, that, and the other, but I think human life and our human life is more important than property values at some point. And so I don't think it would, I think that just in the case of, in the sense it's a very serene place, it's a good place for them to recover. I think that we owe our children that. So thank you.
Morning. My name's Tim Schultz. I'm a partner in the law firm of Goodell, Stratton, Edmonds, and Palmer. But more importantly, my wife and I live at 4426 Northwest Green Hills Road. Our property, we have 70 acres there that is the southern border of the subject property of the CUP. My wife and I have lived on Green Hills Road for well over 20 years. We've raised our kids there. In fact, the land that we're talking about that is the subject of this CUP was my wife's grandfather's land. And the McMillans bought it from her grandfather's estate and then built their house. And so I'm very familiar with this property. I've hunted on this property for over 30 years before there were houses there and all. As I said, my wife was born and raised right there at 46 Green Hills Road. She graduated from Seaman High School. Her whole family is still there. We now live at 4426, just down the road from her home she grew up in. My parents live with us. Our kids were born and raised on this property and have now moved out. I first want to say that I respect and appreciate the concerns of the neighborhood property owners. You know, I understand their concerns, although I don't agree with them. You know, being an attorney, I first have to look at the evidence. And a lot of the concerns that have been raised, there just simply is no evidence to support. It's speculation and it's assumptions that we're going to have more criminal activity in the neighborhood because this house is there. There has been no evidence supported that any of the other homes operated by Teen Challenge in any other location has increased any criminal activity. There's also been concern about what it's going to do to our property values. There's been no evidence that it will in any way impact property values. This house sits way off 46th Street. You can't even see it from any road in the area. So it's not even really a visible house that if it got run down or if there was a lot of additional individual activity and a lot of people in, that it may change the property values. You can't see it. It won't change the property values in the area, in my opinion. But that's just an opinion. There is no evidence that I can present or that anybody else can or has presented regarding a change in property values of this property because the house is there. I've gone to the home. I've talked to Carl and his wife. I've briefly talked to some of the women that are being served there. It is immaculate. They do keep it well maintained. And most importantly, the women that are there want to be there. They're not held captive. And one of the women that are there that actually is working with them now, she graduated from their program, is back working with them, and she just spoke highly of the program and what it did for her life. And while I understand you all are being asked to make a decision regarding real estate, for me, this is not a real estate decision. This is a human decision. You know, while I was evaluating this possibility in the CUP, I had to ask myself, do I support what Teen Challenge is doing at this home? And I do. But then I had to ask myself, well, at what cost to me? What am I willing to risk? You know, if there are those risks, there's assumptions that we may make about property values. But for me, it came down to, am I willing to risk a little bit of my property value in the hopes that the lives of some women that are in an addictive situation can get out of it. This is about changing the trajectory of people's lives. This is not about my property values. I realized it's not about me, and it's not about my neighbors. This is about women that need some help. And I think this home can provide a service and help to them in a way that does not impose upon the neighbors and the neighborhood. And frankly, I think, for me personally, I'm willing to risk some property value. I'm willing to risk a little more traffic in the area if we can change, you know, one life. But how many lives would it take to be willing to take that risk of your property value being impacted? Would 10 women being changed, would that be enough? You know, if one woman's life is changed and she changes what she passes on to her children and her grandchildren and her grandchildren's grandchildren, isn't that enough for us to say this is worth the risk that we're taking when we have no evidence that our property values are going to be impacted and no evidence that there's going to be any increase in crime in the neighborhood? So I am in support of this. I was the one that asked for the 10th condition, that it be specific to the Teen Women's Challenge at the Planning Commission meeting, and they did graciously put that on as an additional condition. I wanted that condition because I wanted it to, okay, Teen Challenge is fine, but I don't want to have any adult rehabilitation facility using this property without my having a right to come back and say, I agree or I don't agree. In this instance, I agree with it, and I'm glad that they put that final condition on. I'll answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Scott Perkins. I pastor a cowboy church just south of Topeka. And I also do a radio program called The Country Parson that's been on the air for about 20 years here in the area. I'm a 1979 graduate of Seaman High School, and I grew up in Soldier Township Fire Station. As my dad was the fire chief, they got the bond election to move the station to where it is today. I have a vested interest in my community. I also believe in Teen Challenge. I believe in the integrity of Carl and Darla Williams. I've been involved in Teen Challenge for almost 30 years as a pastor, getting people placed into Teen Challenge and watched their lives change. As a matter of fact, the church I pastor right now, we sponsor the women's ministry at $100 a month because I believe in this program, because I believe in what they're doing. So in brief, I'm asking for the approval of the resolution of 2019-73 because, as you've already heard, it's about life. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Gordon Shipley. For the last 23 years, I've been a resident of the city of Topeka here. I'm also the pastor of Good News Church here in Topeka. One of the things that's impressed me about the city of Topeka is its devotion to and its commitment to being a city of character, and the willingness to reach out to people that have encountered unfortunate circumstances in their life and their willingness to make a difference. I have seen that up close and have compared that to the cities that I've lived in previously. I moved here from Aurora, Colorado, and prior to that I lived in St. Louis, Missouri. So I've been able to, as someone who is not a lifelong resident, but as someone who has been here a minute or two now, to be able to see what is similar to the other cities that I've lived in and what is different. I also have served as a past board member of the Men's Teen Challenge facility that is located in Lawrence, Kansas, in a residential setting. My involvement with that facility, as well as other Teen Challenge facilities in the states of Colorado and Missouri and Oklahoma, has given me a broad overview of what this program is about. I think sometimes when we use the word rehabilitation, we have an idea of a place where people show up and knock on the door and are let in and stay there for a while until they decide to leave, or someone shows up and knocks on the door and decides to entice them to leave. I think it would be more accurate to call Teen Challenge a restorative facility rather than a rehabilitation facility. I also have the perspective of having had my wife and my daughter work in social services here in the Topeka community in the last 23 years. My wife has worked as a social worker for both KVC and TFI, and our background in foster care and placement of foster care has been extensive. My daughter also currently works as the residential director of the Florence Crittenden Home for Girls, located here in Topeka at 28th and Arrowhead, which is a very densely populated but relatively secluded residential neighborhood. I think it's important to understand the necessity of having these kind of facilities in places where there is not a lot of traffic, because of the privacy nature that is necessary, especially with the women's or the girls' centers. And I've been to this property. I have volunteered my time at the property up here and have had an opportunity to meet the directors and to interact with the women. And I can tell you that this Teen Challenge facility that's operating here in Topeka is like all of the other Teen Challenge facilities that I have had an opportunity to interact with. They do things on a first-class basis. If you have any questions, I'll answer them. Otherwise, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Rhonda Zimlich, and I didn't anticipate that I would speak here today, but I come here because I'm familiar with Teen Challenge, and I believe with everything I am that they work. I am the daughter of two what they call functioning alcoholic parents. I don't even think functioning alcoholic parents is a thing, but that's what they call them. I also have a brother who's addicted. I have a brother-in-law who's addicted. And I want to speak to the neighbors that are here, that you're nervous and you're afraid, and I get that. But you should be more nervous and you should be more afraid of the young people that are addicted that are not getting help because it's not available. It didn't take my family members 30 days to get addicted to the stuff that they're on. It didn't take 60 days. And that's what these facilities are charging tens of thousands of dollars if you can even get in the door, which, trust me, I have called. There's no insurance. They are bleeding your society. They're taking your taxpayer dollars because they're stealing from you. They are robbing you. They are in jail. They go to the hospital. They don't have insurance. Who pays for that? We pay for that as a taxpayer. So not just as a daughter and as a sibling and as a family member, these people that are struggling and they need this help, they need that time away, more than 30 days, to get healing that they need, that they desperately need. You know, I've seen my family members, they break into your homes, they steal your cars. My brother put a gun to my head because he was high, because he wanted my car, because he needed to get somewhere to get the next fix. This is a real life problem, and I understand you're worried about property values. But if we don't do something to help this epidemic that we have with drugs and alcohol and abuse, our property values really don't matter, do they? Does that matter in the grand scheme of things? They're going to go down anyway, right? Because these people are going to knock on your door. They're going to break into your home in the middle of the night. We don't break into your home because we have a job 9 to 5 and we have money and we have a roof over our head. We break in because we need a fix. We need the next thing to make us get through the next 24 or 48 hours. So I ask you, I understand property. I understand as a neighbor, you're fearful. But if you haven't spent time with them, if you haven't given them an opportunity just to meet them, to see who they are, to hear their heart, because that's what matters. On a piece of paper, you don't get the heart of these people that are getting help that they need. Go knock on the door. Ask to meet them. Get to know what they're truly about, because if you don't know the heart of this ministry, then you kind of are remiss to sit here and fight against something that you don't even understand. So I just ask, from daughter of alcoholics, sibling of alcoholics and drug abuse, just ask what they're truly about and what they're doing to help these young women. Thank you.
How's everybody doing? My name is Carl Williams. I'm the executive director. This is my wife, Darla. She's the program director. And I just think it's important, and I understand the concerns of the neighbors as well, but like what's already been spoken, we went door to door. We've met some of the neighbors. We opened our house up for them to come and see exactly who we are, meet the ladies, see how that we operate. And there wasn't one neighbor that took that invitation to come and see. Darla and I've been around Teen Challenge for about 17 years. I'm a pastor. We both live on property. There's nothing that goes on that property without her or I knowing about it. And you know, one of the fears that I heard from the neighbors, and it's a just fear. I understand it, that you know they're looking at it as a halfway house or some rehab moving into town. But we are a small Christian discipleship program. Well, women come to us voluntarily, and they can leave voluntarily. They're not even from the state of Kansas. So even if they did leave, they would have a long walk back to wherever they're from. And they don't know anybody in this neighborhood to get drugs and do all that stuff. So they know, you know, the nature of our program. They know, hey, look, if you don't want to be here, we're going to try to counsel you through and love you through. But hey, it's your decision. And if you want to go home, we're going to take you to the bus station. We're going to call your family, and we're going to make that transition as easy as possible for you to go home. So we don't have people just walking off the property, vandalizing neighborhoods, breaking in houses. All that is just an idea that it comes, you know, attached to rehabilitation centers and all that, in which we're not. And I just think it needed to be said, and that Darla and myself live there 24 hours a day, and we oversee that whole property. We oversee those ladies, their needs. We counsel them through. We have a very close relationship with them and their families. And so that's really what I wanted to say. Do you got anything you want to say, Darla?
You've covered it.
Do you guys have any questions?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Williams.
Yes,
Ms. Zimlich spoke about trauma that she had experienced from a family member that was an addict, including a gun being put to her head, or people breaking in and looking for drugs or alcohol. And I think that reading the emails from the neighbors, that's really a prevailing theme that they've had, is that if a person wants to leave your facility, they can do so at any point. And the concern is that they might look for alcohol or a firearm or a fix, as Ms. Zimlich called it, at their residence after leaving your residence.
Well, that's someone who is in active addiction. We don't have anyone on our property on an active addiction at all. We do random drug screening. We're there with them side by side, walking them through the steps necessary to continue their recovery. And so we don't have anyone. I'm a former addict myself, and I'm a graduate of Teen Challenge. And so when I was doing things unthinkable, and those moments where I looked at myself in the mirror and hated the person looking back at me, I wasn't me. I was in my addiction, and my addiction was causing me to make those bad choices in life. And so these ladies, they're not on anything. We don't even allow them to have narcotic pain medicine from the doctor or any of those types of things at our facility. So it just hasn't been an issue at all. On all the 5 centers that we operate and all the states that we operate in, we haven't had one account in 12, 15 years of someone leaving our property, vandalizing, robbing, or committing a crime to get high.
And to clarify, maybe a comment you made earlier, that all of the residents of the facility would not be local. So are you
Right.
taking people from other states and then bringing them
So
to?
that's a good point. I'm glad you asked. So one of the things that we do is take people out of their element. And some of you may have heard the phrase people, places, and things. Someone from Topeka or from the surrounding county, we're not going to keep them here. That's how, we send them to another state to get them away from their element so that they don't have that temptation to want to go back. Familiar spirits, they drive by a certain street or a gas station or see a certain face, and that might trigger something for them to want to walk off the property and maybe do something like that, get high. So we take them completely out of their element and put them in a home in a completely different state, so we eliminate that issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Melanie Whitmore. I live in Northwest Topeka. However, I'm not in the vicinity. I want to speak to the structure. My daughter was in a Teen Challenge program, not in this group, which I wish she could have been, because the facilities are magnificent. She was in a home that was safe, loving, structured, very disciplined. As far as attesting to any visitors that can attend to, we had to have them on a list. Only letters could be received within they actually had a month, I believe, where we couldn't even speak to her or anybody, but we had to be on a list. It was structured who the visitors could be, very well monitored. I went to visit this house because I wanted to see what it was like. And I wish my daughter could have been in a facility like that. She was in St. Louis, in a different, like I'm saying, it's not part of this, but it was a more scarier place to drop her off, being from a rural Topeka community. But she was away from her element. She was away from the people that affected her. So what I like about this program is I would love to have had my daughter down the street. It would have been a lot easier to visit her, but she needed to be away. She needed to grow up. She had to learn because she suffers with addiction. I can't say that she completed the program because she was not ready. She was ready to commit. She committed. However, it has been a part of her process in various different types. We've dealt with the unfortunate facilities that want to take all your money. Teen Challenge was honest. They were open. They served the girls. They helped the girls. They were there for them all of the time, and they provided all the transportation. She was never allowed to leave the property until we went to pick her up when she said she was ready to leave. And I just want to say it was a very important step. I can't say that she graduated the program because she did not, but she's become a very active part in this. She holds a job in Topeka, Kansas. She functions. She's in programs to help her currently where she maintains a job in this town. And she would tell you that it was an important part of her process. So, thank you.
Anyone else speaking in favor? Okay, then any of those who are opposed would like to speak? None?
Mr. Chairman,
Good morning. My name is Randall Darling, and I live at 4711 Northwest Levering Drive, which is on the north side of that map. And first I want to say you'd have to be crazy not to want to help people, right? I signed a petition against this for 2 reasons. Number one has been addressed with number 10, because my concern was the same as Tim's. What happens in 3 to 5 years if this property is sold to somebody else? and I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know what happens. But so that I think that addresses it. I hope it does, because I'm not against helping people, but my concern was what happens after the fact. So that was one thing. And then the other thing was, my understanding is the organization Teen Challenge is, when I think of teens, I think 13 to 18-year-olds. My understanding, this is 18 and over, which is not a problem, but maybe the name change to Teen and Women's Challenge would be something to consider in being forthright with the people that we're helping. So I think you've addressed my concern with number 10. So I don't know that I'm opposed to it, but I wanted to voice my opinion. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? I have another question for our planning director, Mr. Anderson.
Yes, sir.
With these conditions, would they be able to expand the building on site or add buildings, or are they restricted to what they have existing, or?
They are restricted to the site plan that we showed you before, which basically, well, this thing going. This thing that's not like me. Yeah, I think you're right. The site plan showed the pole barn and it showed the home. It's limited to that space. If they were to want to increase the scope of the facility, it would require a new CUP.
Okay. What about screening as far as landscape buffering of some sort? There's nothing in these conditions that would require that?
Well, it's one of the few times we actually have a natural screen that's present with all, and the fact that most of those trees are evergreen. That does give you a 12-month a year screen that's not gonna go away unless they go out.
There's nothing to keep them though from cutting them down if.
That's true. If you want to add a condition that says the tree cover shall be maintained, you're certainly within your power to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
What's your pleasure?
Before we take any action, as part of a commission, we should reveal any ex parte communication that we have had. I would reveal that, or disclose that I have received emails from the applications for and the applications against. I've read the emails. I also contacted Vern Jarbo to let him know, as the attorney for the applicant, that they had asked to speak with me, but I was respectfully declining. We try to remain unbiased and allow the testimony presented so that it's equally or evenly presented, so it's not engaging in ex parte communication. And also, just as disclosed, that I gave an interview last week to KSNT to let them know that we would be taking this up and looking at all the different aspects of the neighborhood. So,
I too have received some emails, mostly opposed. I did have one in favor, and but that was all communication I had on that. So,
Commissioner Rippon, this is in your district. But it will require unanimous decision, so I'd look to you first, I guess.
You know, this is a tough decision because and you try to separate how you feel in your heart, as you know, and what you feel is what it's zoning about. Why are we doing this? And but having heard all the testimony today, I have to say that I don't think this is a terribly bad use or of the property. I would suggest maybe some extra conditions to this conditional use permit. I do like the number 10. I think that has calmed some of the nerves of people who live in that vicinity. But I would suggest we have that the screening be maintained, the landscape buffering, and that no additional buildings and structures would be allowed unless, what was the type of permit you had to have for something?
The same process would have to be.
Same process. Okay.
Conditional use permit.
Conditional use permit would have to be brought back up for something like that.
So is that a motion then to close the public hearing and adopt the recommendations of the planning commission?
Yes. So,
Second.
Commissioner, so it would be closed public hearing except the what they had, and then you wanted to add those
I wanted
two.
I wanted to add that.
Add
that
the screening.
would have to be
Be
maintained.
maintained, and no new buildings without application for a CUP.
Right.
So that would be, okay. So
You have
any-
those,
We would prepare a new resolution.
right,
with
right.
those
But those, so those, there would be those three items, and the close the public hearing, approve what they said, plus the additional two conditions.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll second that.
All right. Okay, the motion's been made. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
I know how to do it. This cursor is, it doesn't like being pushed around. Let me turn around this way.
Next agenda item.
Item C, Public Works, number one, consider approval of request for a revised project budget of $599,140 for design and construction of a replacement culvert on Southwest Morrow Road over tributary to Colby Creek due to increased materials cost, additional unanticipated work, and relocation of a water line with funding from the Public Works Special Bridge account.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kurt Niehaus, Director of Public Works. Back in December of 2017, Public Works came before the Commission asking for an original project budget and amounted to, I think, $352,000. At that time, I suspect not much was known about this project. Well, now I'm here before you today with a revised project budget, significantly increased project budget, and to explain the reasons for that increase, it really comes down to 4 issues. The first issue, since December of 2017, we've seen increases in material costs, especially as it relates to concrete and asphalt. The second on this project, the existing structure was only about 3.5 feet high. In order to increase the hydraulic efficiency of this structure, and the main structure is shown right there. To increase the hydraulic efficiency, we've tried to increase the height of the structure. It's now a 2-cell box, 4 foot high, 8 foot in span length, so a total structure length less than bridge size, but well more than 16 feet. The third reason is we've had to construct a second structure, a crossroad structure, to accommodate a small pond detention structure. During heavy rains, the pond overtops, and we feel like this structure here will accommodate flow from this area. And then finally, well, let me add, another reason that we've added this second structure is to increase the overtopping elevation of Morrell Road from 2 to 3 times per year to a reoccurrence interval of once per 10 years. And the final reason that the project cost has increased so significantly is we're relocating an 8-inch water line that was located in an existing easement. And as you know, when it's in an existing easement, we pay to relocate. So with that, those increases, I'm here before you asking for an increased project budget of a little less than $600,000, $599,140. The right-of-way has been secured for this project. If you approve this increased project budget, it will go before letting early next year. Construction will start likely in February, and we anticipate no more than 120 calendar day construction interval. The project will be closed. The Morrell Road will be closed during construction. Just to give you a perspective about where we're at, earlier this year we completed the project on Gary Ormsby Drive, south of Montera. This is Gary Ormsby Drive. So this gives you an idea of how much further north from Gary Ormsby Drive the project is located. With that, I'll take your questions.
So we have two drainage structures coming together?
Well, existing is only one.
One's existing.
Well, what I'm saying, Bill, is that on the site right now, there's only one structure, and it's located right here. We're replacing that structure with this double cell 8-foot span box, and we're adding this, these additional pipes. And with the combination of the two structures, again, I think it's extremely important. We go from overtopping Morrell Road 2 to 3 times a year to theoretically once every 10 years.
I think it explains it. I'll make a motion to approve the revised budget.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 2-0. Next.
Item C2, consider authorization and execution of the following contracts associated with the relocation of an 8-inch water line along the west side of Morrell Road, north of Gary Ormsby Drive. A, contract C346-2019 with Cook, Flatt, and Strobel Engineers, PA. Addendum number 1 to contract C160-2018 for the design and construction services at a cost of $27,000 with funding from the Special Bridge Fund. And B, contract C347-2019 with the City of Topeka for a utility adjustment at a cost of $6,500 with funding from the Special Bridge Fund.
Kearney House, Director of Public Works. In the previous item, I talked about a project budget. Within that project budget, utility relocation amounted to $145,000. Most of that related to the 8-inch water line relocation. These two contracts are related to that water line relocation and are included in that $145,000. And this first item is for Cook, Flatt, Strobel for both design and construction engineering services related to that 8-inch water line.
Any questions?
I have none. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carries 2-0. Next.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
That
ahead.
was both of them.
Yeah, both of
both
them.
of
And the
them.
second one was just the City of Topeka, so.
Yeah, they approved both of them.
Yeah, okay. Excellent. Thank you.
Item D, Parks and Recreation. Number 1, consider approval of request to award bid to professional engineering consultants for the design build engineering with a guaranteed maximum price yet to be determined for the Lake Shawnee Girls Softball Complex and Bettis Family Sports Complex turf project at an estimated cost of $37,779 for the engineer services fee, plus reimbursable expenses with funding from the Department's Building Maintenance Fund, and authorization and execution of contract C 348-2019 for same.
Good morning, Commissioners. Randy Luby, Parks and Recreation. If you recall, back in June, you gave your approval to go out for engineering services for these two projects. There's actually the Bettis Complex was the multi-purpose field, and the Lake Shawnee Girls Complex. We were very happy with we had received 3 bids, and PEC was the one that the professional selection committee chose. I have Sean Osborne and Darren Tolan with our Parks and Recreation Department, as well as Nick with PEC. If you have any questions, be glad to answer anything you got.
What do you hope to accomplish with this project?
We're hoping to be able to put new turf on, especially the girls. It's a project that we're very excited about. If you know of all the softball tournaments that we can draw by having turf at both the boys and the girls, that's going to increase the number of national tournaments that we'll be able to host, and also for the turf at the multi-purpose field. It's going on 10 years, and it's pretty much reached its life cycle. So,
question?
Your warranty or for the turf life?
we'll do that in the bidding process when we send out the bids for that.
There was a lot of talk for the last time about, there was a comment made at the time as to the life expectancy of the turf, but that wasn't what the warranty said.
Correct. Right now, I believe it's 8 to 10, but that's something we will look into and be part of our spec package. So
I just caution us that when we make the announcement next time, whatever the warranty is what it is.
we will do that. Thank you.
So,
I move that we approve.
second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 2-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Next item.
Item E, corrections, number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C-349-2019 with the Kansas Department of Corrections awarding a $100,000 grant to Shawnee County and 2nd Judicial District Operations for Adult Community Corrections for technical assistance support in assessing the supervision needs of offenders.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Phelps, Department of Corrections. This item is related to a project that I've been working on with Kansas Department of Corrections to provide auditing services and technical assistance and coaching for the ISP staff to ensure that we're making the full and best use of the assessment tool that they require us to use. So this is done as a pilot project for the state of Kansas, and I volunteered to let us be the first so that we can make it work best, and then they can spread it across the state. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
I don't have any. I'll make a motion to approve, and Tim, it's good to see you back.
Thank you.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 2-0.
Thank you.
Next.
Item F, Health Department, number 1, consider out-of-state travel for the Family Health Division Manager to attend the Nurse Family Partnership Administrator Orientation Training in Denver to provide employee with the required training for the Nurse Family Partnership Program at an estimated cost of $2,064 to be paid from match funds from the Early Childhood Block Grant and Medicaid match funds.
Good morning, Commissioners. Linda Oaks from the Health Department. The request before you today is to send our division manager to this required training for our evidence-based nurse-family partnership program. It is a new training, and they are requiring people that even have been in the program for a while to go ahead and go through the training. We are paying for this through match to our grants and grant funds, and we do have plenty in those funds because, as I said last week, we're still trying to fill positions. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about this training.
I move that we approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 2-0.
Thank you.
Next.
Item 5, Administrative Communications.
Good morning, Commissioners. Randy Luby again with Parks and Recreation. This past few weeks, I've had the pleasure to sit on the United Way campaign with Shawnee County, and it's been a pleasure to serve with Angela Lewis and Eve Kendall on this. We have a United Way golf tournament coming up October 11th. It's a week from Friday. We're still looking for teams and hole sponsors. If you ever played Lake Shawnee in the fall, it's beautiful, so I encourage everybody to participate. One other item, I believe John Bell will be down on Thursday to really talk about Apple Festival, but it is this weekend out at Old Prairie Town, and he'll come with most of the details on Thursday.
He may be a day late since we're not here.
Won't be here.
Oh,
You better tell.
good point. Well, I'm here to talk about. It is a Saturday, Sunday event. It's the 40th annual. Bill, you might touch on it during your time. They have bus transportation. It's a beautiful event. If you haven't ever been out there, please go. It's a beautiful event.
It is a good event, and I hope to be out there helping on. I know I'll be out there Sunday, probably half a day Saturday. So.
I'll do the same. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Commissioner Cook?
Well, we had the ribbon cutting at the Sheldon Cabin, and that was a very good event. And then Tecumseh Heritage Days was on Saturday. It was a good apple pie contest, and had a piece of apple pie, and I'm looking forward to our trip to Montgomery this Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to see what they do and what we might be able to bring back to Shawnee County.
Well, I attended the ribbon cutting in the city of Auburn for their new fitness equipment, and they had hot dogs and everything. It was a good event, and it's always good to have hot dogs. So also I attended the election of the new commissioner. It's an interesting process to watch, and like I said, I'll be at Apple Festival this weekend. So that's it.
Mr. Chairman, I might recognize that Aaron Mays is here and present, so I want to personally congratulate him and look forward to serving with him in a week or so.
Yes, well, yes, me too. I think I echo that. It'd be good to get you on board. Next.
Item 6, executive session.
There's no need for executive session, so we're adjourned.
Jane, I have something I need to go do. I'm going to come back and sign. So I know there's a lot to sign, so I will be back. Let Cindy back move. No, I moved over here so I could escape before she could hit me.